So, how long will a fret made out of resin last? I don't know, but let's find out. The evolution of the fretted instrument is a story of innovation. The first fretted instruments came out of India around 300 BCE, and they used catgut, or tied silk, as frets on their lute-like instruments. Through time, materials and processes evolved. We started to use wooden inlays as frets, brass wire, nickel silver, and then stainless steel. And that's where we've been stuck for the last 125 years or so. And that's okay. There's nothing more durable than nickel silver or stainless steel. That material will last you your lifetime. But what I want to do today is something a little different. I want to try something creative, and I want to do something for fun. We're going to build an entire fretboard out of resin, including the frets. We're going to be as creative as we possibly can. We're going to have fun building these fretboards. Then we're going to put them on guitars. We're going to play them, see how they sound, and determine how long frets made out of resin last. Let's get to it. All right, so for this project, we're gonna be making a mold of a fretboard, and so to do that, we need a fretboard. It doesn't make any sense for me to build the fretboard, just buy one, right? It's just much easier, much quicker, and more cost-effective. So we have this fretboard from StewMac. It is maple, and it is an oversized blank, meaning the shape of the actual fretboard isn't built into this. The frets are slotted, it is radiused, there is a nut slot, but other than that, this needs to be machined. So what we're gonna do is throw this on the CNC machine so we can get the proper outline of the fretboard. Let's get to it. All right, so the machining is done, and essentially this was just doing a kind of like a U-pass. So it just went straight this way, all the way down, then around, and then up the other way. It didn't have to cut the top, because that's my origin point. All right, this just came off the CNC bed. It's looking pretty good. Now we just have to fret. There we are, just StewMac fret wire. This is the extra jumbo, extra tall, extra wide, etc. So let's go ahead and radius this, and then start cutting them and start installing them. All right, so we need to build a box for the silicone mold. And so I just got this sheet of shelving at the big box store. It has like this really kind of nice lining on it. So what I wanted to do is simply cut this into strips. And I've already marked this out. So these strips will become the walls. And then these strips here will be the other walls. I picked up this little mini battery powered cordless saw. It does have a fence on there. Should be really easy to rip this. All right, so I'm done cutting up the strips of this shelf. And the reason why I chose the shelf is because it has this kind of factory edge here that's like a veneer, but it's really smooth, and I thought it would make a really nice seal. So this is what it's gonna look like. I'm gonna have my fretboard here, and then I'll have this piece in here, this wall like that. Then we have these edge pieces here, and they go like that. And it's just a temporary box. I'll be breaking this box once I'm done with it, so it doesn't have to be beautiful. All right, let's continue. So I went ahead and finished the fretting process. I skipped those steps, you don't need to see them. But essentially what I needed to do is, since this is just a fretboard, what I did was I found a perfectly flat aluminum piece of stock. This is flatter than any bench I have, flatter than any piece of wood. And I just taped it on here so the fretboard is now flat. And then, standard fret job, taped it off, did a level. And the whole point of this is we want to make sure that the Fresser coplanar so that this fret is the same height as that fret. And we just basically do a crown and a polish and it's all done. So I think the proper way would be to spray this with some kind of clear coat to make all the surfaces smooth, but we're gonna just pour it like this. So let's get this off the aluminum stock and let's start putting it in the mold we made. Smooth on. We're gonna be using this product here for the silicone. Now this is the easiest silicone to work with, that's why I chose it. It's easy because of three things. You don't have to degas it, meaning you don't have to put it in some kind of pressure pot. You don't have to weigh it, so you don't need a scale. It's just a simple 1-to-1 ratio. You mix and then you pour, that's it. And that's why I chose it. So this is a part A and a part B. And I chose this pint system because I measured and did the calculations for my mold. I know that this is enough to actually fill this up to the height that I need. Once again, this is the 00M00 series, and the first sentence in the product overview is no vacuuming, no scale, easy to use, and that's why I chose this. What I did was I taped down the fretboard, put some super glue on the bottom, set it in place in the mold where I wanted it, and now I'm just basically weighing it down with this 20-pound weight. It's been 24 hours and here is my silicone mold. It's actually looking really good, feels pretty good, but now we have to sort of demold this or debox it, and I don't know how to do that. I super glued it together, and so I think I'm gonna just have to break this. I'm gonna have to literally get like a hammer and break this wood. I don't know, I've never done this before, so let's give it a shot. Let's just start breaking stuff and hopefully the mold retains its shape after I take this box apart. All right, so I got it deboxed or whatever this is called, and it actually wasn't that hard, but you know, it was hard. So not a lot of silicone stuck to it. I'm really surprised by that. The fretboard itself came out of the mold really nice, and you can see there's no silicone stuck to the frets. There's no silicone stuck in between the frets or in the nut slot. It's a clean release. So the really cool thing is I can make another mold with this exact same fretboard since it's already stuck to this. Now is the part of the process where we need resin. And I love the way serendipity just happens with these projects because I had this crazy idea to make a resin fretboard with resin frets. And then right out of the blue, I get an email from a company called Bond Craftor. They make craft and hobby resins, and they asked me if I wanted any. And so I responded saying, I'll take some if you're willing to give me a whole bunch because I'm gonna be doing a lot of experimentation. And they're like, for sure, we'll send it right out. Let's take a look. Oh my goodness. I don't know exactly how much this is, but I believe it's like 2 gallons. So it looks like I got all the stuff that I actually really needed, which are these sort of measuring cups, which I didn't have, and then mixing cups, which I also was literally on my to-do list today to get some mixing cups. We have some pumps. Looks like they gave some rubber gloves for handling the epoxy. And then these little squeegee things. And looks like some stirring devices. So this is 1 gallon of the hardener and 1 gallon of the actual resin. And they're pretty darn heavy. This is gonna be more than enough to do all the experimentation I need with this silicone mold. All right, these fretboards came up pretty cool. So this is my first test. And what I wanted to try was just having sort of a clear fretboard. I think that kind of looks cool. Now, there's a couple of things I learned from my mold. And the first thing is I bought a fretboard on StuMac. And I was kind of in a rush to do this project that I didn't sand or fine sand the fretboard. And so you can feel the actual wood grain in between the frets. So obviously I did a fret job and I polished the frets, so those are perfectly polished, and that's what I wanted the whole board to look like. It doesn't look like. There's a definite texture, a wood texture in between the frets. And that's fine. The only issue with that is that it doesn't have that crystal clear finish, which is what I wanted. But it doesn't matter, we did it. And there it is. The next one I made was a little bit more elaborate, and this one has a bunch of stuff in it. So where this one just had dye, like the alcohol ink, this one has the alcohol ink, some glitter, and a bunch of watch parts. So I had all these watch components and I threw them in, and it looks really good. Really cool. So obviously I was in a rush to do this, so when I was putting the watch parts in, they would start floating. So I wanted them to be fret markers, but that didn't happen. But this is the one that's going to be the classical nylon string one, so it's already on a neck. I have a really cool angled headstock with the reverse telly headstock. This is gonna be killer. This guy here is purple. This one is using the Total Boat resin, which has a shore hardness of 85. So we're gonna put this on a neck, and this is gonna be the steel string guitar. So the main issue I've been having with these fretboards is that they need necks, and making necks takes a long time. And there's no way I can make 3-4 necks in a short amount of time. I just can't. So I'm trying to figure out ways to sort of make shortcuts to make necks to put these boards on. And so one of the things I did was I took off the neck on the mule. You guys have seen the mule before, looks like this. And I actually just removed the fretboard, and I just have one of those handheld planers. I just went zip, zip, zip. And then I level sanded it so that I know it's level. So now I have a carved back and basically a way to install a fretboard now. So this was the fastest way for me to kind of test the neck. So I know that it's not a custom neck, it's not a custom guitar. I just want to test this in a quick way. I put it on the mule and just test it out. That's all we're doing. Same thing with this one. This is a nylon string. So I'll be using like off-the-shelf components or just buying a telly body. Like I don't have time to build a telly body to test this, right? So we're just gonna buy a telly body and stick this sucker on. I'm not gonna start from scratch. It just takes too long. But the whole point of this video is these necks. That's it, right? Check these out. You're a killer with this. So just for fun, I built this fretboard. And I went around the garden, clipped various leaves off plants and trees and put them in the actual mold. I did this just for fun, just to see what would happen. You know, the cool thing about the mold is that it's reusable. And I can do fun stuff like this now with the mold. I can get creative. And the other thing is that, you know, this video is sponsored by Bond Craftor. They sent me like a gallon of resin, so I have plenty of resin to really noodle around with. So why make resin frets? Well, think about it this way. I built one perfect fretboard. I did one fret job. I did one crowning and polishing. And from that, I was able to cast all these fretboards. And I did these fretboards really within 24 hours of each one. So it takes 24 hours to cure. I pour the resin, and then the next morning I take it out. And then I pour the resin, and the next morning I take it out. So I'm able to quickly knock these things out. Someone has to try this. Someone has to sort of add to the tribal knowledge that we all use and share. And if the results are, hey, this didn't work, it's still knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge. It doesn't matter if it was a fail or not. So I have this stainless steel powder here. This is 304 stainless steel powder. It's 1 pound, and it's basically got a mesh of 320. You can get these at different mesh sizes. You can get them finer or coarser. The finer you go, the more they tend to clump, and you don't want this to clump. You want it to be evenly distributed. And that's the issue with using things like carbon nanotubes and graphene, is the mixing. A lot of those really high-tech materials require an ultrasound mixing technique, which we just don't have available to us in these shops. So that's why I'm trying this first, because this is easily accessible. I grabbed this on Amazon. It doesn't require high-tech ultrasonic mixing techniques like graphene does in carbon nanotubes. So we're gonna try this first. And we're also gonna be using a very special resin. This is the Tough Cast in black. This is gonna be a very, very strong resin that's gonna be black. So it's gonna be stainless steel, but all black. Can you even imagine what that fretboard's gonna look like? It's gonna be killer. So even if this experiment fails, it's gonna look flippin' cool. A black fretboard with black frets? Come on, you know you wanna see it. actually built 3 guitars in a very short amount of time. This is the first fretboard that we actually molded, and I put it on the mule. So let's go ahead and just do a quick little demo to see how this sounds. So a lot of surprising things. So this project, this experiment surprised me in a number of ways. And one is I built this perfect fretboard, I molded it. So all these frets are perfectly level. So you might think that there might be some kind of discrepancy when you're putting the fretboard onto the guitar, but I made sure to level the actual neck prior to actually epoxying the fretboard. So everything's level and just came out. There's no dead spots, there's no buzzing. It's actually a really great and fun guitar to play. So it sounds just like a normal guitar, it feels like a normal guitar, plays like a normal guitar. There's nothing weird about it. The only kind of concern we all have is how long are these frets gonna last? And so if you think about it, anything can be a fret. Anything. You could have wooden inlays, you could have zip ties as frets, right? Anything can be a fret. The question is, how long is it gonna last? And really that's what I'm here to answer. So what I'm gonna do is play this guitar, play the other guitars I built, and just, see how long they last until we start seeing some kind of like indentations in the resin and until we start seeing that fret buzz. But then that just begs the question, like, why don't we have sort of replaceable fretboards? Like, we change out a pick guard fairly easily. Why not be able to change out a fretboard fairly easily? And so that might be something that I look into with 3D printing. Like, can we have some kind of modular system where you can just slide this out and slide another one in? I don't know. These are all just questions that someone else needs to answer, or eventually I'll answer. Everything about the guitar is perfect because my first original board is perfect. There's no dead spots. It's actually really surprising. But let's play the other one. Let's take a look at the other guitar. So this guitar is pretty cool. This is the last fretboard that I molded. I did this off camera, it's pink, it matches the shell pink, and it's perfect. Again, I built one fretboard, did one fret job, did one fret level and polish, and this basically is just something I can knock out every 24 hours. And again, it's level throughout, they're all coplanar, there's no buzzing, and it just works. these fretboards are pretty cool. They look pretty stunning. I'll get some close-up shots of the joint between the fretboard and the neck. Everything's really flawless. I actually do polish these with the buffer, so they are completely transparent. So you can actually see through them. You can see the fret markers all the way through. You can even see the truss rod in a lot of these fretboards. In particular, in this one here, the mule, and the other one that I'm about to show you. So again, no buzzing, no anything. It's pretty spectacular. It just works out that way. All right, let's check out the next guitar. All right, so for this next guitar, it is a nylon string classical style guitar. And what I did was I took the preamp for the piezo and I put it in an outboard box. So there's no need to like cut holes in your guitar to install a preamp. Just put it in a pedal enclosure, like an aluminum enclosure. In this case, I just had this cigar box and I put my preamp in here. I guess my thinking was that resin frets are softer than metal, so let's try a string that's softer than an electric guitar string. So these are nylon strings. I picked up a pack of these D'Addario folk strings, so they actually have ball ends. This is a top loader bridge. So basically these are a core of nylon wrapped in a very, very smooth, sort of a silver plated string for the top strings, and the bottoms are just nylon. And because these are just nylon strings, they're never gonna wear the resin frets, like ever. And these are a silver plated thicker gauge string, and so they're pretty smooth. In fact, D'Addario makes a set of classical strings that have a superior like smoothness to them. I didn't get those because they didn't have ball ends, but there are basically options to extend the life of a resin fret, especially if you're using a classical style nylon guitar. So that was my initial thought for this. So like you can see, no pickups, there's a piezo in the bridge. I got this really cool Geiger red bone saddle, which is really cool. And it basically plays exactly the way you think it plays. So it is a thin line body, so it's semi-hollow on both wings. There's an F hole here. And it sounds exactly the way you'd expect it to sound acoustically. Very mellow tones on this, at least acoustically. So my tests are gonna be essentially try the nylon string acoustic, give this a shot for as long as it takes to try to wear down these frets. And then I have obviously a mule here, Strat here. So I'll be basically running through these guitars every day, just trying to see if there's any change in the actual dimensions of the frets. But that's the demo for these guitars. I think they came out pretty cool. It was a fun project. So a lot of cool stuff, but there's more to come. So let's go back to the shop. What a fun project. I had a blast, and I made some pretty cool fretboards, right? They're awesome to look at, they're stunning. When you polish them on the buffer, man, they're completely crystal clear. I just love the way resin does that. And it's so cool to break out of this traditional design language and start trying something different. This whole project was driven by curiosity, that's it. I'm a guitar builder. I know that metal frets are basically the standard in what you want to use for electric guitar strings. I just needed to know, could this be done? Could we build something strong? So I experimented with stainless steel powder. So this fretboard is made with black epoxy and stainless steel powder to increase the strength. So this is an experiment that I'm going to be trying in the future. I also want to experiment with modern fillers like carbon nanotubes and graphene, not graphite, graphene,
which at the molecular level is stronger than steel. It's just the way the atoms are stacked. Carbon nanotubes are extremely strong, stronger than steel at the molecular level. And we can buy that. We can actually get on Amazon right now and buy graphene and carbon nanotubes, believe it or not. Of course, you want to go through a legitimate laboratory to buy this stuff, but you can easily get it on Amazon. And that's something that I want to experiment with too. How can we make this resin stronger to make it last longer, to make it more durable for strings so that we can do really cool things like this? Anyway, thanks for coming with me on this journey. Thanks for sharing my curiosity. Thanks for wanting to have fun with me. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.